Hello, Misfits, and welcome. Amanda here with your DMing advice and opinions, and today I want to talk about something that I've been meaning to make a video on for a while, because this has become sort of like an expectation for all tables, and that is the Session Zero. I want to talk about what it is and what you should expect to cover in it. So, let's get into it. So first, what is a Session Zero? So the Session Zero is basically when you kind of meet with the people you'll be playing with, the people that are at your table, and you kind of discuss your expectations for the game. You can kind of touch on rules you want to implement, the types of characters you expect them to roll up and play. You can talk about your setting, your theme, all these wonderful things. This is a great way to kind of feel out the people you'll be playing with, or vet the people you'll be playing with if you don't know them very well. This is also a great way to figure out if your players are going to be a good fit for your DMing style and your story. Next, I want to talk about sort of this misconception of the Session Zero. We call it a Session Zero, which implies that there's only one, but that's not really true. You can have as many of these types of sessions as you want, and honestly, it's probably good to have more than one, especially if you're dealing with people that are completely new to the game or completely new to your group and your table. You might need to explain to them what the rules are and how things work, and it can be a lot of information to cover in just one session, let alone the fact that you're probably checking in with each individual player. It can take a lot of time to talk through things, so don't feel the need to cram it all in one. Spread it out over 2 sessions or 3, and take your time, okay? This is kind of your pre-production, pre-planning mode, okay? This is where you can iron out the kinks and make sure that you are set up to have a nice, wonderful campaign that everybody is looking forward to and everybody can get behind and be excited about. So, one of the most important things that you need to talk about in your Session Zero is the setting, the overall themes, and the tone, okay? This is crucial, because somebody might be wanting sort of this happy-go-lucky campaign, frolicking through an enchanted forest, but you might be wanting to run a gothic horror campaign, that is not at all the vibe that they're going for. So you need to explain the kind of game you want to run, what the overall theme and tone is, so that the people that you're looking to play with know what to expect, or know that, you know what, that's not going to be the game for me. That's not what I'm looking for. I need to find a different table. So this is really important to talk about up front. For my current campaign, I sort of checked in with my players, and I can't remember if it was discussed in our Session Zero, or if it was something that I talked to them about sort of outside that. But I remember touching base with them and asking them if it was okay if I incorporated some Lovecraft kind of themes into the current campaign. So I kind of prepped them for that, and they knew to expect it. They gave me the okay. They said that they were totally fine with that, and that's definitely been a component to our current campaign. Another thing that I did for our current game is make sure that they really knew that the setting we were using was pretty isolated to this one sort of archipelago. So I let them know that, so that if they created characters from these other far-off places, they were aware that we might not get to go to their hometown and experience that aspect of their backstory. So that's another reason why you want to make sure they're aware of the setting and stuff before they have created their characters. Another extremely crucial aspect to go over in a Session Zero are your expectations and rules. How you plan to handle player attendance, any homebrew rules you want to implement, how you want to deal with metagaming and crosstalk, how you expect your players to, handle their own characters and keep track of the story. You need to go over your expectations, and you need to go over all of your rules. If you don't have any homebrew rules you want to implement, you might want to at least point out what you consider to be the most important rules in the core rulebook itself. They need to know what you are looking for. They need to know if you're going to be a stickler about the rules or if you're going to play the rule of cool, 9 times out of 10. We need to go over all of these things in the session 0 so that we are transparent and everybody knows what they're getting themselves into. Something else we really need to tackle in session 0 are your characters, If they're new to the game, you might want to walk them through character creation. If they're not, you at least want to touch in and be like, all right, what class is everybody making their character at? Do we care about balancing the party? Do we not? And then you definitely want to touch in and make sure that you get the backstory information from your player characters. If you want to tie in their backstories to this overall plot, you need to know that information so that you can start incorporating it. If you don't intend to do that, you at least need to know about their backstory so that you kind of know what motivates these characters. You know what strings to kind of pull on when you're trying to get them to delve into RP or when you want to throw challenges their way. It's extremely important to know exactly the kind of characters that are going to make up this party because you're going to be dealing with these players in your campaign. You're going to be catering to their needs. You're going to be adapting your encounters to fit them. So you need to know exactly what you're dealing with. Another big thing to include in a session 0 are lines and veils, okay? If you don't know what lines and veils are, essentially, lines and veils are the, definite no's that make your players feel uncomfortable, that they don't want to encounter in the kinds of games that they play. Those are your hard lines. And then the kind of gray areas that sort of push us out of our comfort zone and kind of teeter on the edge of uncomfortableness, and those are our veils, okay? Lines and veils, and going over that, is pretty important for groups made up of people you don't know as well. You really need to feel out what they feel comfortable with. You wouldn't want to include some aspects into your campaign that kind of really trigger a player at your table. That would be terrible. That would be awful. So you want to make sure that you feel out what's okay with everybody. If you know the people you're playing with really, really well, you might not need to formally sit down and figure out everybody's lines and veils, but you do need to touch base with everybody and just kind of be like, hey, anything you guys aren't okay with seeing in our games? We kind of did that. We didn't really have a formal lines and veils spreadsheet that we filled out, but I did ask my party, hey, is there anything that you don't want me to include in our games? And they let me know that. There's certainly things that I don't feel comfortable including in my own games. So if I feel that way, then I know that my players must feel that way as well. So just check in with everybody, make sure we're all on the same page, and you know how to proceed with the information you're given. So those are the main points that you should definitely cover in a session 0, but there are tons of other aspects and things that you might want to touch on. So this is up to you. How do you want to form your session 0? What exactly do you want to touch on? What exactly do you want to explain? We've hit the big ones here, but there's a bunch of little small details that are important for anybody to talk about when they're preparing for a campaign. So it is up to you to check in with your players and figure out just what everybody needs. So these are my points about the session 0, and yeah, honestly, huge deal. They were sort of like a newer thing that I hadn't heard about as much when I was starting to get into D&D. We sort of had informal session 0s where we would roll up our characters, but a lot of us were pretty new to the game, so we didn't exactly know what we were doing or what we were supposed to do. We didn't have a session 0 for my first campaign that I ran, and I definitely came to regret that, because then I would run into these problems of, attendance or things like that, and I wish that we had had a time where we sat down and discussed that as a group to figure out what we needed to do in those situations. And so I definitely had to sort of fix that in the next campaign. And so we definitely had a nice big long session 0 where we went over all of our table rules and everything that I expected from them and what they could kind of expect out of the campaign itself. And then that's continued on now. I will never go a campaign without some sort of session 0. And for my next campaign, I fully intend to spread that over 2 sessions instead of just 1, because it's just a lot of stuff to talk about. And in our last campaign and the current one, we really weren't able to tackle everything without me having to meet with individual players outside of that session to sort of touch base and figure out some character details. So I definitely want to spread that out over multiple sessions next time. But anyway, so that's my spiel on the session 0. It's sort of a ttrpg staple at this point. Yeah, and let me know if this was helpful or useful to you. If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to like and subscribe, and definitely comment below. Tell me about the things that you have to include in your own session 0. Tell me about the times when you didn't have a session 0 and it hurt. Tell me about the times when you did have a session 0 and it helped, or you wish that there was something else that you had covered in that session. I'd love to hear about all those things. But with all of that out of the way, I hope you guys have a wonderful day, a wonderful rest of your week, and I will see you again next time. So the D&D movie is coming out at the end of this week, and I'm just super curious. Which of you intend to go see it? Are there things you're looking forward to? If you're not planning to go see it, why? Yeah, talk to me in the comments below, because I'm super curious. I have no idea when I'm going to go see it, but I don't know, something about the idea of seeing some of these things that have only ever existed in my mind being, like, brought to life in that way, in that medium, is kind of fascinating to me. Yeah, I'm just curious if any of you guys feel the same way. So talk to me about that in the comments below.